the exercise yards, and I was watching all of you as you came through the door, and you were squinting your eyes as you came out into the daylight. That's after less than an hour inside the jail, so just keep this in mind. These prisoners would have been locked up all day long. They only got 1 hour of exercise every single day, 1 hour. Now, men, women and children were separated. Through the arch here, you had the children's exercise yard. Now, I'm sure all of you know a kid of about 6 or 7 years of age. So just think of this child being laid out just for 1 hour. First of all, they would have been separated from their parents in here. They would have been thrown into this system, and they only got 1 hour of exercise. Now, it wasn't fun time or let's play ball time at all. The boys and the girls were separated. The boys had to walk in a clockwise circular motion. On the outside, the girls in an anti-clockwise circular motion. At all times, each child had to focus their eyes down. They were not allowed to look up. They had to focus their eyes on the heel of the child in front of them. If they did look up, they would have been severely whipped. So no, it wasn't fun time for these kids at all. When I started working here, the first thing that really I thought about was escape. I was watching Prison Break at the time. I don't know if any of you have been watching it or were watching it, but I was thinking, did anybody escape from this jail? I did find out during the War of Independence that there was an escape. War of Independence, you had the worst kind of warfare, guerrilla warfare. People didn't dress in uniforms, they wore normal clothes. The Irish were completely outnumbered, so that's what they did in order to have monopoly. They go up, they kill people, they blend in with the crowds behind them. You had the black and tans that came over to try and fight this off. But what happened was the authorities couldn't put their finger on the criminals or the murderers because they never actually caught them at it. So what the authorities did was they arrested most of the Irish public and threw them into a jail. So you had a lot of innocent people in jail at that time. But 4 prisoners that were here during the War of Independence I want to mention. There was 2 prison wardens, Welsh prison wardens, that were working here at the time. They took sympathy and pity on these other 4 prisoners, and they said, we'll try and help you escape. So what they did was they let them out of their cells one night, brought them out here. This yard is called the escape yard. Over to this gateway. There would have been a large lock on that gate originally. But they did bring bolt cutters. They went over and they tried to get the lock off with the 4 prisoners behind them. It didn't work. First attempt, the bolt cutters were not big enough. Brought them back into their cells and locked them up. Following evening, second attempt, they brought them back out here. They had larger bolt cutters and they were on the brink of getting that lock off the gate, and one of the prisoners, called Patrick Moran, turned around and said, I don't think I will go. Now the reason for this, his court case was coming up in 2 weeks' time. He had 17 eyewitnesses saying that he was not involved in what he was believed to have been involved in. He had been spotted by 17 eyewitnesses. One of those was a police officer, so he was confident he was going to get off. The other 3 prisoners that night, they did escape, and they were never ever found. They were free men for the rest of their life. 2 weeks later, Patrick Moran's court case came up. He was found guilty and he was hung up in Mountjoy jail. So every time I tell that, I learn something from it. You shouldn't wait for the backup plan. If you get an opportunity, grab it with both hands. Had he gone that night, he himself would have been a free man. The 2 Welsh prison wardens didn't get off either. They were sentenced to 6 years hard labour in a prison over in Wales. So they more or less swapped places with the prisoners that they had escaped. So I'm sure they didn't vouch on this when they were sentenced to hard labour themselves. So we just move into Stonebrick.